It is my honor to welcome with us here today the Reverend Deborah Johnson. She serves in Santa Cruz, California at Innerlight Ministries, where she is both the director and the founder. And she serves as part of our power-filled AGNT Leadership Council. So it is good to see your face again. We have had just a little break, not a break from connection, but a break from face-to-face. And I bet there's a lot on your radar. And I'm wondering what's been on your radar recently about the world within you and the world around us.
Well, it is good to be back. And I want to say hello to everyone who's out there and listening and participating. It's been busy. Life is in session. In terms of the broader context, I'm in California, and we just yesterday, there was a recall attempt on our governor. There's a lot, obviously, in the social, political environment. I'm doing a fair amount of training and teaching, some things that I can share a little bit later on. But most especially what I would say to all of us is that because there's so much going on, that we have to pay particular attention to being centered,
yes,
to being grounded, and to being intentional in our capacity to practice our spiritual resilience. Beautiful. It's easy to get overwhelmed. It's easy to get depressed, apathetic. But part of the reason why we have this series in the first place is to keep hope alive. And
that's right.
The acronym that I have for hope is HOPE, heart open, possibility, and engagement. Let's keep our hearts open, stay in possibility consciousness, and remain engaged.
I love it. I love it. And you know what I always try to remind myself is that when things are up, like the mind has just a tendency to want them to go away. But when they're up and they're in your face and they're challenging you, that's the right time to say yes, because that's the practice. This is not a theoretical practice. It's not a book learning. It's really an opportunity when things are up, and you can't practice when things aren't up. You can't just, do it when it's convenient and do it when, engage the practice when you go to a therapy session to talk about it. It's like when the anxiety is up, when the chaos is up, when the offendedness is up, whatever it is, when it's up, when you're triggered, when you're concerned, whatever it is, when your feelings are heightened, that's when to stop and take a deep breath and just remind yourself, this is it. This is the time. This is the work. This is my moment to do this differently. This is my moment to apply principle. This is my moment to be aware, because the psyche, it wants summer vacation when stuff's up, and it wants to work on things when you can just have a cocoa by the fireplace chatting with your girlfriend about, theoretically what happens when I'm triggered, and I'd like to move through that. But when I really have an opportunity, when it's really in my face, I just react. So I love your acronym, and I love this reminder to stay grounded, stay present, and say yes to the practice in this moment.
Yes, there is, and I want to come back to that idea of the intentionality. The intentionality. The word that's used in the New Testament for love by Jesus all the time is a particular kind of love. In Greek, there's many different words for love. There's eros love, the erotic love, there's platonic love, there's relationship, phileo love, but then there's an agapeo love, from which we get the word agape. And that's a particular kind of love. That's a love that is a direction of the will. It's a direction of the will. It is an intentional choice love to see the interconnectedness, to live in the interconnectedness as a state of being, not an activity that you put on or that you take off. It's a way of being in which you allow yourself to be so connected, there's no separation. And that has to be an intention on our part. A lot of us just want to do the friendship, kinship, that I love you because I like you, or I love you because we have something in common. But the agapeo love is, I like you I love you in spite of the fact that I don't like you. And I don't need to like you to love you.
Right. Right. To just know that we are all part of life itself, life living itself, love itself, expressing God on this planet in this time of.
Yes, because the only thing that ever needs to be healed is just the sense of separation. Any problem that we see out there in the world is rooted in some kind of a sense of separation. Separation from each other, our good, our health, our wealth, from the divine. And what we fail to realize is that the animosity that we hold towards, quote unquote, other people, the judgment, all of that, not only does it put us in separation from them, but it puts us in separation from our own divinity, our own sense of connection. See, when I'm angry with you, then I'm not at peace in my heart.
Right.
When I have a lot of judgment against you and lack of forgiveness for you, then I'm not open to experiencing and receiving forgiveness. And I really believe that our biggest malpractice is just inconsistency. Inconsistency. We allow the stuff of this world, or whatever it is that's going on, to get us off our game and to give us an excuse for why we don't stand in what we know, practice what we preach, because that stuff over there is just so big. No, it's little. Our spiritual practice is what needs to be big.
Yeah. So what advice do you have, and what tools do you have, and personal experience that would help someone working to move through forgiveness or resentment or whatever is up for them, but they, just are struggling with rearranging it in their mind, struggling with not wanting the person to have shown up different, or the circumstance to be different, or the communication to be better, whatever it is. And they just find that effect happening within them, that they are experiencing the negative effects of the mind having feelings, the emotion body having feelings about someone or something that is just, a little repulsive or off-putting or resentful, judgmental.
Well, that's a very good question. And what we need to remember is that our experience in life is not what happens. Our experience in life is how we name what happens. Our experience is our interpretation of what happens. There is a narrative that goes on. And this narrative isn't like a story. It's not just an accounting of what has been. In the moment, while things are happening, we are naming it. And the tricky thing about this narrative is that it creates a mold. It creates a prescription for what's ahead of us. So how I'm naming it today impacts how I'm going to see it tomorrow. It's like it's the glasses that I start to create, the lens through which I see the world.
Yeah.
We get to choose the lens. You don't get to choose the circumstance. You don't get to choose the conditions. You get to choose the lens. And we're too busy. It's like the 12-step serenity prayer. We're too busy trying to change the things we can't change. But change the things that you can change. And the first thing that you can change is you. The
Right.
only thing we have control over is our mind. And that's the thing that we think we have the least control over.
Right.
Affirmations are your friend. Affirmations are your friend. Your self-talk, the things that you affirm, the things that you say to yourself. We have to take deliberate control, just like the food that you intake, the food that you eat. We have to take deliberate control of what we feed our mind and stop feeding it junk food and start feeding our mind good, spiritual, nutritious thoughts that can build up our spiritual immune system, just like our physical immune system, so we're not as susceptible to the things that are around. You can't get rid of everybody's germs, but you don't have to be susceptible to them with a low immune system.
You're right. And the power of attention is huge when it comes to that. With attention, even just focusing our attention and being aware of the story we're telling ourselves about someone else, about circumstance, the power of attention is incredible. You know, this is just a silly little side note, but this morning I was up very late working last night, and then I got up early with my little toddler and started working again. And rather than doing what I normally would do, which is get her set up with her, well, I did get her set up with her little carrot juice, but she did ask for food. She did say she was hungry, and my brain, we're doing stuff in the kitchen and she's entertaining herself. And, you know, I started to get something and then I got into work again, and I'm working and working. And I see her over the table where I'd been up working late last night. And there are these little squares of chocolate that someone had given me for my birthday. And I see her opening the chocolate, and she takes just a little tiny bite off the side, and I catch her and I say, oh, let's put that away for lunch. We can have the rest of that for lunch. And we wrap it up and put it away. And then again, I get distracted and go into finishing doing more work. And the next thing that happens is I hear crinkling, and I look up, and, you know, we don't do a lot of sugar. I mean, we do almost, I mean, not no sugar, but it's not a part of daily life. But I have some treats around. And she somehow found these Rice Krispie treats. And I look over, and there's like one full little Rice Krispie treat in its package. And there's the other package completely empty. And it's like 7 a.m., 7:30, and she's just licking her fingers. And the empty package of Rice Krispie treat is just sitting there on the table. And I thought to myself, Mama, you weren't paying attention. And, you know, of course, I didn't even redirect her or anything like that, because it's the mother that needs redirecting in that situation. She actually fended for herself and did quite a good job eating what was available to her, which was junk food. And that's exactly what you're saying about our spiritual practice and applying that. If we could just take this little story and take this little picture, and when junk is going through our minds, really stop and say, I was just lacking attention. And now I am paying attention. And I will not put that junk food, I will not put that into my body or into my mind, because it is how we frame the story. And when we are so engaged with thinking everything is about us, we sometimes don't put enough space and perspective in relationships and circumstances to recognize that people show up how they show up. And that's about their consciousness. That's about their awareness. And we have the opportunity to show up how we show up. And whether or not that's good for us and good for others is in our wheelhouse to discern.
Exactly. And if I could use that analogy that you were just making about what happened with your daughter, that our ego mind is like that little kid that just wants to be satisfied now. And like that'll just
tell me what's around.
Exactly. That will just eat whatever it is that's around. Back to the garden, like it looks good, it tastes good, and all of the rest of that. So we have to keep our house stocked. We have to keep our house stocked with the things that we can grab quickly. The food, the snacks, so to speak, the stay hydrated. Well, those are spiritual practices. You don't wait until you're hungry to look around your kitchen and go, well, what am I going to eat? You stock it up ahead of time. You have your books, you have your programs, you have your people that you talk to, you have your meditation, you've got your prayer practices. Whatever it is that you do, you want to make sure that that's what you feast on.
Right.
And there is plenty around at all times, because you're going to get hungry. It doesn't matter what you ate last week. You're hungry this week. It doesn't matter what you told your mind last week. Your mind is hungry today. Today.
That's right.
Yes, we have to consciously be feeding our minds like we feed our bodies every day throughout the day.
Yes, yes, yes. And I did remind the little one of a little tray that I have to the side that has dried cherries and dried blueberries and dried apples. But we have to do that for ourselves in our spiritual practice. And just remember, whenever we're feeling those things that show us that we're not in forgiveness, or we're not in freedom, or we're in resentment, it's just to breathe, just stop, take a deep breath, open up the awareness, and just say, what am I feeding myself? What story am I telling myself? What story am I saying about someone else or other circumstances? And can I just breathe into this practice, breathe into the kind of universal support that's all around me, and ask for a reframe.
Yes.
That is healthy, that is in alignment with spiritual principles, that emancipates both the victim and perpetrator from whatever it is that's going on in the mental circus of, our narrating the story.
Yes.
And just add a little more space, add a little more compassion, add a little more awareness to the stories in our minds.
Yeah. And build your system. We get addicted, literally. The way that our brain works, we'll get addicted to these negative things.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're in that state of the addiction, normal doesn't even feel right. If you're accustomed to being on a constant adrenaline high, in fear mode, just quiet solitude will feel off, because our bodies have gotten acclimated to being at these heightened states. So just like if you are trying to get into recovery, you can't rely on just your own devices. There's a reason why there are 12-step programs going on all the time, all over the place. That if we want to be intentional, we have to have a game plan. If I want to stop drinking, I need to be aware of what my triggers are, but I also need a plan of what am I going to do?
Yeah.
Do I have an accountability partner? Is there somebody I can call that's going to help me, not go off the cliff?
Right.
Is there a practice that I can do? A way that I can direct my attention, start to be of service, go work out.
Right.
Something that's
Put something in the space.
Yes. Something that's going to get me in the right groove.
Right. Actions that are like affirmations and the denial. The denial is releasing a practice, but the affirmation is adding a nourishing practice.
Yes. And the denial is also recognizing the lie in the lie. The lie in the lie. Part of that denial is, I'm not a loser. That's not what I am. God has not made me a loser. Where we have to rebuke it, so to speak. We have to look at stuff sometimes and consciously reject it.
Right. Right.
Just to do that. And what I want to say to everybody is that we all need help. We all need support. There's reasons why, you're there at Unity Village. Though there's reason why Unity has a 24-hour world infamous prayer line.
That's right.
Because, and I've called it.
Right.
I've called it sometimes in the middle of the night.
Right. There's no shortage of calls coming in.
Exactly. And what I'm saying is that it's that intentionality. So in the middle of the night, do you go out? Do you, go to the bar? Do you try to get the hookup? Or do you call the prayer line?
Right. Pick it up. And you know what? That's Unity's fifth principle is act. And it's, for me, act is be aware, consciousness transfers. It transfers to your life. You have to act on these principles, and then they transfer to your life. They transfer to the people around you in your environment, and they transfer to creating a better world for you and for others. Thank you, Reverend Deborah, for this engaging conversation today. And we've got about a minute here. I just want you to tell us a little bit about the work that you're doing, because you are creating some amazing opportunities for people to activate spiritual principles for social good and social justice. So tell us a little bit about some workshop seminars that you have coming up.
Yes, well, thank you very much. So my ministry, Innerlight Ministries, is sponsoring a social justice series this fall. It's called the Inclusion Series. It consists of 2 5-week workshops. The first one launched last week. The second session is actually today. It's not too late to join. And the first workshop is called Unmasking Privilege, the Art of Power Sharing. And the second workshop is Cultivating the Consciousness of Inclusion. That second workshop starts on October the 20th. And goes until November the 17th. You can do either or both of them. They are via Zoom. And what's really great about this is that you have a chance to look at these issues from the integrative standpoint of spirituality, social justice, and best practices. It's interactive, so you're in learning pods. I have 20 of my colleagues, some who are at the Agent Council with me, who are there to be facilitators, to work with you. And you get to choose the level that you want to do your assignments in your engagement, foundational or intermediate, or the more seasoned. And it's all about us building our spiritual muscle to create that world that we have the vision of that can work for everyone.
That is great. And thank you for doing that amazing work. And we will make sure that our AGNT Facebook page has information on those activities. And if you think that it's not relevant to you, and especially if you look like me, if you think that it's not relevant to you, the idea of privilege and privilege that we're not aware of, I would just encourage you to open your mind to think beyond what you've ever thought before. Just as a closer here, I was in the store a couple weeks ago, and I meant to post this on social media. I took pictures and I never did post it. But I was in the store looking at getting Band-Aids for my little one. And as I was looking at the Band-Aid section, I saw something I had never seen before. And those were Band-Aids of color. Skin tone, skin matched Band-Aids. So if you are white and you have never in your life seen black Band-Aids before, check that. Check even that. Because there is a world of individuals and little kids that don't get Band-Aids that match their skin tone. And even little things like that are big things, and they speak volumes. So the fact that I am the age that I am, and I walked into a store and for the first time saw Band-Aids in shades of skin tone to match the human beings in my community is a clear sign that there are things that people are overlooking that need to be seen in order for us to continue to co-create a world that works for all. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We are your AGNT Leadership Council, and this is AGNT Speaks. Have a divine week and make sure to share with others in your spiritual community, in your family, in your world, that they can join us each week for this conscious conversation.
May I add one last thing?
Go for it.
With this inclusion series, we've done something a little bit different, where we invited 15 different spiritual communities to participate with us. And every community that does gets a code where 20% of everything that comes in goes back to that spiritual community. And I want to offer that to anybody out there, to your group, your organization, your business, as just a way for us to do the movement together. And if you want to find out more about that, just go to education@innerlightministries.com.
That's so great. Thank you, Reverend Deborah. So people can not only bring a fully developed transformational program to their spiritual community, but they can also at the same time prosper their spiritual community in interesting times by doing that work together and engaging their spiritual community. I know that we have a lot of leaders that come to the Zoom room and that check in to our AGNT Speaks broadcast. So we just encourage you to engage in this support and engage in this work together. And it really is something to do work with larger communities together in tandem. So thank you for that, Reverend Deborah, and we'll see you all next week.
Take care.